Some
Hello guys, hi. Welcome to stream. Sorry in the late because I went out with my friends, and basically that's the title. So yeah, Swift play again. ഒരു സ്വിഫ്റ്റ് പ്ലേ വിൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ എനിക്ക് ഇന്നത്തെ ഡെയിലി ബാറ്റർ തീർക്കാം. But anyways, as I was saying, yes, I went out with my friends, and it was fun. So yeah, I'll just keep it at that. Yeah. Anyways, ഇപ്പൊ തന്നെ 8:45 സോ എൻ്റെ ഡെയിലി ഗ്രൈൻസ് കുറച്ച് വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരും. വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരുന്നല്ല, കുറച്ച് സമയം എടുക്കും ബിക്കോസ് ഐ ഹാവ് ടു ഈറ്റ് എനിവേസ് ആൻഡ് ഞാൻ ആനിമെ ഒന്നും കണ്ടില്ല.
Wherever they run, I will find them.
എനിവേസ് ഞാൻ ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് വീഡിയോ ഇടാം ബിക്കോസ് ഐ ഗെസ് ഞാൻ തൊണ്ട ചെറുതായിട്ടൊന്ന് വേദന എടുക്കുന്നു.
times there's only one way for two men to settle their differences. 1v1 me, bro. Guardian or Rust. Nowhere is the art of trash talk so perfectly captured than in the Street Fighter matchup between Viscant and Low Tier God.
If you're gonna talk, then back it up. If you're gonna be a bitch, then run like a bitch.
That's what I'm fucking talking about! That's what I like to hear!
I'm not going to dive into the rich lore behind this, but suffice to say these two hated each other. And Viscant seemed like the genuine guy, you know, showing up in a nice shirt, probably got off work, was like, I'm gonna go beat some guy's ass in Street Fighter. Low Tier God comes in, fuck this kid, this little vampire ass bitch.
This dude looks like a fucking zombie out of The Walking Dead. Then he comes here dressed like he got his outfit out of fucking Target. This dude looks like he lives in his basement. He looks like he never gets sun. He could possibly be a fucking vampire.
And I gotta say, props to the people hosting the tournament for allowing these two to talk to each other like this. It shouldn't be encouraged, but if they do this shit in the UFC, you know, why not in gaming? It spices things up and makes the match more intense. Cause whoever loses can't talk trash no more.
Bitch! Bitch! Come here, bitch!
This match had everything. It felt like Low Tier God and Viscant almost came to blows multiple times. That says it all.
That's it! AJ is popping off! He is popping off right now!
It's like, the thing with bullies is sometimes the only way to truly defeat them is to bully them back.
You heard that correctly. Bully hunters will get these harassers where it hurts them the most, by beating bullies at their own game.
Viscant knew this, and after the heated battles, this is what he had to say.
There's gonna come a point when you forget about what happened, and you're gonna want to come back at me, and you're gonna want to watch
Revealing
taste
area.
my dick out of your mouth.
Low Tier God is left speechless and stunned by the verbal assassination he just endured. Would anyone remember this historic matchup were it not for the trash talk and the intensity behind it? And even though Low Tier God seems like a real douchebag,
One
like,
enemy
at
remaining.
the very least, you must admit his antics are entertaining.
This feeling that you got stepping into an arcade to go play Street Fighter 4, we will never feel again. Ever. The FGC will there'll never be a time like this again, the way you felt competing in Street Fighter 4.
You could talk all the same shit you do before, during, and after a match, but just have that one moment of actual respect between you and the other player.
Huge shout outs to both of the players for coming out under all this pressure. There was a lot of hype. Everyone saw the trash talk. It got a little personal, whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, these two are existing under the same roof. And all the trash talk aside, this is really about Street Fighter. And, you know, that was a great fight.
So I think we can all agree in tournaments and esports, the pro scene, trash talk is a vital part of the game. It absolutely has a place, but it also has a limit. It's up to the organizations and tournament holders to come up with reasonable guidelines.
Last player
You can be a
standing.
professional and still call someone a cock-smoking breadbasket. Not all trash talk is beneficial or created equal. Like I said, there's a difference between not being creative with your insults and just
Spike planted.
Threats
You want to get raped, bitch? You want me to rape you?
and like shit and garbage like this.
I will literally beat your fucking head in, bitch.
It's the laziest, most boring bullying I think I've ever seen. I'm gonna rape you this. I'm gonna kill you that. You're dumb. You're stupid. If you're going to insult somebody and try to get at someone, and you're not even going to put any effort into it or any creativity into it, you shouldn't bother doing it.
That's the true crime, is when
someone get
people
this?
just aren't creative. Like, I find it so cringe when I hear someone throw out a slur, and it's like, that's all they got.
You scream every time you die, you bitch.
Shut the fuck up, fag!
Is this it? Is this all you can conjure, Saruman?
Or when there's a girl in the lobby and some dude is like, make me a sandwich, woman. It's like, you really have the neurons working in maximum overdrive to come up with that one, didn't you? At least ask her to mow your lawn or something.
Bitch! Is a bitch talking to me? Is a female talking
Spike
to me?
down.
Yes, Mr. Speed, I do believe a female is talking to you. Like, the best trash talk to me is cold, calculated, creative insults.
I feel like I'm a fucking gorilla with a fucking baseball bat fighting a retard with a spoon.
It's making someone feel bad for reasons they never imagined, or making them so confused by what you just said, they have no other
Last
reaction
player
than
standing.
nervous laughter. Anyone can throw out racial slurs, but it takes a true connoisseur to stitch together an elegant sentence
Last
like,
round
it
in the
must have
half.
been a sad day when you slithered out of the abortion bucket. You could send that to anybody, and I guarantee you they would never forget that sentence. That's the beauty of it. I don't know, man. Trash talk and trolling, it's all about just like finding what someone gets really, really pissed off at, what upsets them, and then doing that and seeing their reaction.
Now I'm gonna cry, motherfucker.
Let us hunt.
Other times, bad trash talk
Scanning
is
ahead.
more innocent, where someone wants to drop a fat one, but royally screws it up.
Our best is better than your worst.
Kill my ball.
Wait. Our worst is better than your best. My bad.
Bomb grenade out.
This is totally harmless, but noticeably embarrassing. But remember, kids, you need consent before you talk trash in the game. Don't
Spike
forget to
down.
ask
C.
If it reaches levels of harassment where someone's like making new accounts just to keep messaging you, yeah, that's too far.
You're obsessed with me, you fucking fat. And y'all niggas can clip
Last
this. This
player
nigga come on my
standing.
stream 24/7 with a VPN, getting banned thousands of times a stream, and still comes in here and sucks my dick and obsesses over me.
But if you stay in the same lobby and
Switching
insult
sides.
and berate each other for an hour, you go your separate ways and
Stay
never speak
taut
to
as
each other
opposed to
again,
the fight
well, what's the
demands it.
harm? Now, there is a more toxic side to this, naturally. Children that hop into online voice chat, commonly referred to as squeakers, well, we don't exactly want to traumatize a fucking kid. But then again, parents should know what their kids are doing and saying, and watching children get pissed off is pretty funny. There is an ethical part of trash talk. It's like sex. It should be done between two consenting adults. Greetings, XX Boom Handler. I fucked your sister last night. And a good day to you, no-scope baller. My sister has a dick. That's how it's supposed to be. I know I'm coming across like I splooge over ye old Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, but let's also not ignore the extremely
One
toxic
enemy
side
remaining.
of trash talk. Like this article states, I put on my friend's headset, someone called me the N-word, and I stopped playing after that. This was my first and last experience with live chatting while gaming. So, you got 3 ways to deal with any bully in your life, because online bullying is all this can be, right? You're not going to get betrayed by a teammate 5 times and then meet up to fight in the streets, unless you're Denny G, who lives in Smethwick, Birmingham. If you want a fucking brawl, you'll come out of his house and I'll break your fucking legs. You can either, number 1, ignore the bully, don't feed the troll. You can, number 2, disconnect from voice chat. Or, number 3, bully the shit out of the bully. I understand interacting with obnoxious, hateful people is tough sometimes, especially if you can't just pop them in the mouth. But in this article, in this case, it seems like the terrible racist comment won. Nobody's saying people can't be toxic in gaming, but I don't understand why on earth you'd let someone win. Why did you let them bully you off of a game? Why didn't you tell them to go snort coke off of a crocodile's butthole? You know? It's not like these people can unplug your internet. My dad actually works for Comcast. Shut the fuck up. My dad is Phil Spencer. Trash talk is inevitable, and everyone has the tools to deal with it. But here's a more difficult question we need to ask ourselves. How should bad trash talk be punished? An NBA player by the name of Leonard Myers said this on a live stream while gaming.
Cowards don't snipe me, you kike bitch.
Last player
Leonard
standing.
was suspended for a week, and the Miami Heat slapped him with a $50,000 fine. 8 days later, he was traded from the Miami Heat to the Oklahoma Thunder, where he was released 8 days afterwards and has not played an NBA game since. So you could argue using a bad word on live stream ended this man's NBA career. I think that's excessive. Just recently, there was another massive overreaction to trash talk, if you could even call it that. This was in response to a teabagging incident. Yes, apparently that is a thing now. During a Valorant tournament, a player known as Dilly teabagged one of his dead allies.
Revealing area.
To which he was promptly banned, and the reasoning was this.
Take flight. Will not tolerate that. Literally go out and jump on a death box and teabag it.
My ultimate is ready.
I have a fucking pen and pen. Yeah, so we're here to create a safe space for all gamers, everybody, and that kind of stuff will
B2B, 2 are in B2, Arena and Raze, I guess. Oh, Jet. All 3 in B.
Some people went so far as to claim
Raze, Reyna and Jet were in B.
games is on the same level of sexual assault in the real world. So 2 other players made fun of these opinions. Riot's response was to ban these 2 players from any Riot-sanctioned tournaments, and then they doxed them for that extra spice. Committing crime, making fun of teabagging. It's some of the most pussy-ass shit I've ever seen on the internet.
Shooting bodies also counts as fucking being toxic. We'll get to those DQs later.
Like, Riot released these people's full names when they weren't public. What? Just use their fucking screen name, dude.
Yeah, so like you can't do that. Just like I'm telling you, you're gonna tell me teabagging my own teammate is toxic. All right, so this is where we're gonna shut the I'm not gonna get into that one. Absolutely it is.
In the wise words of the legendary video game Donkey.
What is this fucking pussy-ass baby preschool time?
Oh my god, he teabagged a dead body. I can't believe this horrific and disgusting act has been normalized and accepted by the gaming community for the last 20 plus years.
Let's play.
Sexual assault. We're
Did you
gonna
know?
create a safe space
Spike
for everyone,
down,
except
attacker
if you happen
spawn.
to crouch down next to an ally's body more than 3 times. Then your ass is grass, and I will publicly shame you on my live stream. Because I was that kid in elementary school that got a hard-on every time I told on someone, and they got us.
ഞാൻ ഡെയിലി ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരിക്കാം.
137 on race. 137 on.
The organization behind this
Outside
decision
beat.
to ban
Yes.
Billy for
Last player standing.
freaking novel about it to double down.
You better kill this guy, okay? Nice.
What I find so funny about a company like Riot saying they're trying to fight against toxicity in the gaming space.
Nice try, nice try.
Company just settled out of court for $100 million in gender discrimination
ബെസ്റ്റ് ഐ ഗസ് ഞാനൊരു.
But yeah, let's focus on the teabagging.
എൻ്റെ ഡിസ്കോഡ് അല്ലേ ഹോളോസോഡ്. ഐ ഗസ് ഞാനൊരു പ്രീമിയർ കളിക്കാൻ പോവാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. അയ്യോ ആഷിൻ്റെ അക്കൗണ്ട് കയറണോ? ഷിറ്റ്, ഞാൻ ആക്ച്വലി സീരിയസ്ലി കളിക്കാൻ പോവാണോ? പുല്ല്. यार इधर से
Wherever they run, I will find them.
So these are a couple instances where I feel like relatively harmless trash talk is treated like a fucking battery charge. These kinds of moments feel disingenuous to me because the punishment doesn't fit the crime. But perhaps this is the future of competitive gaming. In the casual competitive environment, you know, those matches where it's just people playing ranked, that's when people get a bit fierce. Why did you run for the sniper instead of grabbing the flag, you baboon? This level of competition instills a desire to win at all costs. You'll find that trash talk is much more toxic in ranked modes than unranked, which is why I don't play ranked League of Legends, because I'd rather get bit by a wolf spider than 9 black widows. This is especially prevalent in games like League and Overwatch because there's always someone to blame other than yourself. But that's the thing developers need to realize. Engaging in shit talk is a choice. I don't like the toxicity in League's ranked mode, so I don't play it. The other main reason people talk trash is for their own entertainment and for the entertainment of others. A lot of people don't like Keemstar, but his early...
Hello.
Hello. Yo.
ഞാൻ ഡിസ്കോഡിൽ ആഷിന്റെ യൂസർ നെയിം പാസ്വേഡ് ഇടാം.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ. എപ്പോഴാണ് മാച്ച്?
മാച്ച് ഗോപു വന്ന പുറത്ത്
ആണല്ലേ. വേറെ നല്ല കളിക്കാരൊന്നും കിട്ടിയില്ല എന്നെ പിടിച്ചിരുത്തുന്നത്.
കുഴപ്പമില്ല, ഞങ്ങളെ പ്രീമിയർ ട്രൈയാർഡ് മുക്കലൊന്നുമല്ല, ചുമ്മാ കളി.
ഇല്ല, എന്റെ ഭയങ്കര ലോ പ്ലേസ് ആണ് കേട്ടോ. നല്ല വേണം.
ഒരു കാര്യമില്ല.
നിങ്ങൾ ക്ലച്ച് ചെയ്യണം, ഞാൻ സൈഡ് വെക്കാം. അത് ആഷിന്റെ അക്കൗണ്ടിലേക്ക് നിങ്ങൾ 5 പേരാണോ രജിസ്റ്റർ ചെയ്തത്?
ആഷിന്റെ വീട്ടിലുള്ള ഗസ്റ്റ്.
ഓ, അവന്റെ സെൻസും ഇതൊക്കെ മാറ്റണോ അല്ലേ? അതെ, അല്ലേ വേണ്ട, അവന്റെ സെൻസ് ഇട്ട് തന്നെ കളിക്കാം, എന്നാലും ഒരു രസമുള്ളൂ.
Videos were extremely creative.
This is fucking boring as hell. I'd rather fucking teabag a bear trap.
Let the bullets fly.
Scanning ahead. Found them.
Sorry about that.
അയച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്.
പിൻ ഗെയിമാണ് ഇപ്പം ചെയ്യാം. അവരുടെ ഗോപനോടെ പോയി
എന്തോ വരാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു, വിളിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടോ വരാം.
Reloading. Charge your bolts. Reloading. Reload. Tailing over here. Got him.
Deploying drone.
Blinded. Enough.
New stage in 10.
Revealing area.
Blinded.
There they are.
Stage 2.
Take it out. Okay.
Shock dart.
Charge your bolts.
Cutting their vision. Reloading.
Scanning ahead.
New stage in 10. Stage 3.
Revealing area. Found them.
Reloading. Satchel up. Here. Slick tie.
Joke's over! You're dead!
Easy for me.
10 seconds until stage change.
There they are.
Satchel out.
Enemy down. My ult is ready.
Down.
I am the hunter!
Great for me. That's great. Get out of my way.
Shot down. Revealing area.
Hawk out. One down.
Kills remaining.
Sleep.
Here. Fire in the hole.
Perfect.
Kills left.
Headshot.
Scanning ahead.
Hawk out.
I guess.
നോക്കൂന്നവിടെ കരണ്ട് പോയി ഗൈസ്. എന്തിനാണെന്ന് എനിക്ക് ഐഡിയ ഇല്ല.
അതെ, അവൻ ഇപ്പൊ പിങ് ചെയ്തായിരുന്നു.
അവൻ എന്തിറ്റി
മറ്റേ കറണ്ട് പോയിരുന്നു.
കരണ്ട് പോയത്.
ലൈറ്റ് ശരി എന്നാ
നിങ്ങൾ ഇരിക്കും. നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം.
അവന്റെ കറണ്ട് ലൈറ്റ് ഒന്നും വരൂല.
വരും വരും. നിങ്ങളിങ്ങനെ പ്രതീക്ഷയായി ഇവിടെ.
ഓ ബെസ്റ്റ്. എനിക്കെന്തോന്നു എറർ വന്നത്. റീസ്റ്റാർട്ട് യുവർ ഗെയിം ക്ലയന്റ്.
ഇഷ്ടംപോലെ സമയമുണ്ട് പയ്യെന്നാ. ആശിന്റെ അക്കൗണ്ടിൽ കയറി നോക്ക്. ആവശ്യം വരത്തില്ല, എന്നാലും കയറി നോക്ക്.
ഇല്ല, കേറിയതാ അപ്പോഴാണ് എറർ വന്നത്.
കോഡ് വേണ്ടേ ഇപ്പൊ?
കോഡ് ചോദിച്ചില്ല, അവൻ 2FA ഇട്ടിട്ടില്ലെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. പ്രീമിയർ എങ്ങനെയാണ് എതിരായിട്ട് കണ്ടിട്ടില്ല. എന്തോന്നാണ് ജസ്റ്റ് റാങ്ക് കളിക്കുന്ന കളിച്ചാ പോരെ.
അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ, വേറെ ഒന്നുമില്ല.
സ്കിൽ ഗ്രൂപ്പ്സും വരുമോ അങ്ങനെ? അതോ സ്കിൽ ഗ്രൂപ്പ്സ് ലൈക്ക് നമ്മൾ ഒപ്പോണന്റ് ഉണ്ട്.
ആ ചെറിയ ഇതുണ്ട്, കമ്പൈൻഡ് ഡീലും ഉണ്ട് ടീമിന്റെ. അത് കുഴപ്പമില്ല.
മറ്റവനും ഇല്ലേ ഇന്നലെ? വേറെ
ഇല്ലില്ല, ആ വെളിയില. അല്ല, ഇന്ന് ആശാണ് കയറായിരുന്നു. ആശിന്റെ വീട്ടിൽ ഗസ്റ്റ് വന്നത്. മറ്റവനെ വിളിച്ചില്ല. നിങ്ങൾ തിരിച്ചു പോകേണ്ടി വരും.
എവിടെ പോകേണ്ടി വരും?
തിരിച്ചു പോകേണ്ടി വരും നിങ്ങൾ.
സ്വാഭാവികം.
Revealing area.
That's what I mean when I talk about the art of trash talk. And if you go even further back to the days of Ventrilo harassment, well, gamers are certainly an angry bunch sometimes. I think it's perfectly fine to make content based on people getting pissed off as long as you're tactful about it. You go into the comments of these old videos and you see people nostalgic. They're reminiscing on the golden era of trash talk. It represents a time before Skype and Discord were mainstream and in-game chat was just the default, you know?
Oh my fucking god! Dude, why is it that when I flash somebody, it's like I just slapped them in the face with a fucking napkin from a little kid's birthday party?
But it seems developers nowadays see this type of trash talk as detrimental to the business model. Back in the day, it was pretty common to see the mic symbol next to every player in a lobby, meaning at the very least they had it plugged in and could hear. It seems gaming back then just had a higher emphasis on building a community, or at least giving players as many ways as possible to interact with each other, be it good or bad. Clearly, a lot of people enjoyed this kind of verbal war. I myself rarely jumped into the fray, but I'd always plug my mic in just to hear what kind of crazy-ass shit people would talk. I tuned in for the pure salt. Some games are so good about this, they actually talk trash for the player.
Go eat another box of dog treats.
Like the episode 3 game.
Which one of those buttons calls for help?
Or with Overwatch, where voice lines can be spammed for maximum irritation. Like everything in life, there's a time and a place for trash talk. In some ways, it should be encouraged, or at least allowed. I think developers should stop treating trash talk like some virulent plague that's infested the world of gaming. I think most times it's pretty harmless, and usually it's obvious when it's not.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
Make fun of people for their skills, not their gender or their race or whatever. That's not creative or funny. A little rivalry adds to the intensity. It makes us more competitive. And I think video games would be far less interesting if people didn't care enough to think up some witty insult or pull out their guitar just to try and roast another guy.
So yeah, you're gay.
If anything, trash talk is something that should be enjoyed from afar. It's a part of life, and it's a part of competition. And so perhaps trash talk does have a place in games.
In your open world Harry Potter game, and all of a sudden, you're a bigot. You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this. Yet there it is. What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today we're putting on our hazmat suits and jumping headfirst into what is possibly the most toxic discourse around a video game I've ever seen since The Last of Us Part 2. Now, unlike many of the hot takes that will be presented in this video, I completely understand if you don't want to watch this video and you don't care about any of the political, social issues people have been talking about surrounding Hogwarts Legacy. If you want to play a video game, that's totally fine. You do not have to be an activist. Now, I did talk about this on my second channel, Actman TV, in a separate video, so go subscribe there and check that out if you're curious and you want more of this content. With that being said, let's discuss the boycott of Hogwarts Legacy. Because while it seemed to have started with good intentions, that's how the road to hell is paved. It started off as a unified boycott on the r/gaming Circle Jerk subreddit and other internet forums like Reset Era.
It is an army bred for a single purpose. To destroy the world of
gaming.
It began to spread to other parts of the internet like Twitter, and a lot of people were just ripping on J.K. Rowling, which is totally fine and fair. But at some point it went from memes and a boycott into attacking anyone who was remotely excited for the game or who wanted to play it or stream it. This is the line you are not supposed to cross.
Step over this line. Just step over that line. Oh, you stepped over the line.
As shocking as it is to hear this, there are people on this planet who don't spend every waking moment stalking J.K. Rowling's social media posts.
It's impossible!
Some of these people have no idea what she's said in the past, and now suddenly these random Harry Potter fans are being told that they're a bigot.
Please do not support the upcoming Hogwarts Legacy game. The reason being is that you may not be aware that by supporting this title, you are essentially aligning yourself with some really heinous transphobic values.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for? The boycotters started berating others. You are a bad person. You have terrible morals that are hurting trans people by purchasing this game. You are advocating for their genocide.
Jimmy, we still got some of that transphobe propaganda. What you talking about, that wizard game? Yeah, the franchise where if you like it, you're harboring hatred and you're calling for the extermination of trans people. You actually believe that? Shit, nigga, I got a 5th grade reading level. Of course I do.
If you spend any money on Harry Potter products, you are a bad person, is essentially what the boycott turned into. But these people used such absurd appeals to emotion, right? Like, not everybody who touches Harry Potter is instantly transmogrified into a hateful bigot. That's just stupid. Is every game journalist, critic, and content creator who covers this game as part of their job now a terrible person? No. Are all the people going to Harry Potter Land and Universal Studios bigots? No! So where did these boycotters come up with this idea? I had to get to the bottom of it, as it was the crux of their argument. JK herself has said that purchasing anything that she helped to create is a statement of support for her and her views. Did she now? This is something I've heard a lot of people say ad nauseum. Now, one person who said this, I asked them for a source, and the reply was to tell me, go Google it, and then they blocked me. Which is always a good sign, right? When you're like, hey, can I validate the truth of what you're saying? And they're like, nope, bye. As it happens, I found the quote they're referencing, and it's a tweet from J.K. Rowling. Now, again, whatever you think about her, I'm just trying to set the record straight on everything. Now, remember, their entire argument that buying Hogwarts Legacy is an endorsement of J.K. Rowling and all her beliefs hinges on this one single quote. Someone tweeted at her, how do you sleep at night knowing you've lost a whole audience from buying your books? J.K. responded, I read my most recent royalty checks, and I find the pain goes away pretty quickly.
വന്നില്ലല്ലോ അല്ലേ
വന്നില്ല
ഇത് പറയാൻ ഞങ്ങൾ കയറി വന്നത് ഒന്നില്ലെന്ന്
25,000
തിരിഞ്ഞു നോക്കോ വീട്ടിൽ പോയി കഴിക്കുകയൊക്കെ ചെയ്യല്ലേ
അല്ല
സമയം കളഞ്ഞ്
നീ വെയിറ്റ് ഞാൻ
UPSC ഒന്നും വേണ്ട 10 മിനിറ്റ് അടിച്ചു പോയല്ലേ
പത്തല്ല ഒരു അരമണിക്കൂർ നിക്കണ്ടാണ് എന്റെ
ഇതിപ്പോ കളി കിട്ടുമെന്ന് ഉറപ്പില്ല 25 ചെയ്യും വേറെ ടീം ക്യൂ വരെ കിട്ടത്തുള്ളൂ എല്ലാരും സിൽവർ ഡ്രാഗൺ ഒക്കെ ബൈ വേറെ വഴിയില്ല രാത്രി തേങ്ങയില്ല എഴുതി വെക്കണോ എന്റെ കാര്യം എന്തൊക്കെ ആയിരുന്നു 8:30 ഞങ്ങള് കേറി വരും കളിക്കാം
ട്രാഫിക് ബ്ലോക്ക് വഴി
8-9 കാണിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ക്യൂ എന്ത് ഇപ്പോഴും ഓപ്പൺ ആയിരിക്കുന്നത് മനസ്സിലായില്ല.
8:30 to 9:30.
ഓ 8 to
9:30 വരെ ഉണ്ട്. 9:30ക്ക് ക്യൂ ചെയ്താലും മതി. കാരണം ഞാൻ
9:30 ഉള്ളൂ.
അല്ല ആ 1 മിനിറ്റില് ക്യൂ ചെയ്താലും ഒരു കളി കിട്ടും.
കളി കിട്ടാൻ വേറെ ആൾക്കാരും ക്യൂ ചെയ്യണം. നമ്മൾ മാത്രം ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് കളിക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല.
അല്ല അതെന്തായാലും ക്യൂ ചെയ്യും ഉറപ്പാണ്.
നിങ്ങളിപ്പോ ളിക്കള പോയി കഴിച്ചിട്ട് വാ.
ഞാനാ
നിങ്ങൾ എന്തിനു വെച്ചി നിങ്ങൾ ഇനി വീട്ടിൽ കറണ്ട് വരും എന്ത് അറിയാം.
എടാ ഇത്രയും മഴ പെയ്തിട്ട് കറണ്ട് പോയില്ലേ, ഇപ്പൊ ഈ സമയത്ത് കറണ്ട് പോയെന്ന് പറയണ അവസ്ഥ.
കറക്റ്റ് സമയത്ത് ഗസ്റ്റ് കറണ്ട് എല്ലാം പോവും.
ഇവിടെ
പ്രീമിയർ നിർത്തി ഇനി കളി ഇനിയില്ല.
ആദ്യമായിട്ടല്ലേ പ്രീമിയർ നീ കളിക്കണം. ഇതാണ് അന്നേ പറഞ്ഞ ബേറ്റയിലെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് വേണമായിരുന്നു ഈ കാര്യത്തിൽ.
കറണ്ട് പോണേ ബീറ്റ് എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് കാര്യം എന്ത്?
അതും കറക്റ്റാണ്. എടാ ഞാൻ പറയാം എന്റെ UPS 45 മിനിറ്റ്
27 ഇനി വന്നിട്ട് തേങ്ങയില്ല. പൊക്കോ എല്ലാരും പൊക്കോ. എടാ നീ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞു കുളിച്ചൂടായിരുന്നു എനിക്ക്. എനിക്കറിയാം എങ്ങാണ്ട് കറണ്ടൊക്കെ പോകുന്ന പോയി എന്താ ചേട്ട് എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാ. ഗുഡ് നൈറ്റ്, നാളെ കാണാം.
നാളെയും കാണൂല. ഗുഡ് നൈറ്റ്.
ശരി.
രാത്രി
രാത്രിയാണ് ഞാൻ വിളിക്കാം.
ശരി എന്നാ.
ഞാൻ സ്ട്രീം ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരിക്കും. അതാണ് ഞാൻ അവിടെ നിന്ന് ആഷിന്റെ സെൻസ് ഒന്ന് പഠിച്ചു വരുവാണ്. ഞാൻ എന്റെ മൗസിനെ DP മാറ്റിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു അവിടെ നിന്ന്.
ഇത്രയും പ്രശ്നം എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാല് ഇതുവരെ അല്ല എന്റെ ഇവിടെ ഭയങ്കര മഴയായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ വീട്ടിൽ കറണ്ട് ചോദിച്ചപ്പോ മതിന്ന് വെച്ചാ ഇത്ര മഴ പെയ്തിട്ടും കറണ്ട് പോയില്ല, ഇപ്പോഴാണ് പോയത്.
I see. Happens, I guess.
ഇന്ന് എന്റെ മുട്ടൻ ലക്കായോണ്ട് ഇന്ന് എന്റെ ദിവസമാണ് കേട്ടോ.
അതെന്ത് നിനക്ക് പ്രീമിയർ കളിക്കണ്ടായിരുന്നോ?
അല്ല അങ്ങനെയല്ല, എനിക്ക് ലക്ക് ഇല്ല, ഭയങ്കര അൺലക്കി. ഇന്ന് ഞാൻ കാടി കിട്ടിയപ്പോ എനിക്ക് തോന്നി ഇന്നത്തെ ദിവസം എന്റെ ഹിറ്റാണ്. അയ്യോ പ്രീമിയറോടെ കളിച്ച മൂഞ്ചി തള്ളിയാന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു.
എനിക്ക് DP കറക്റ്റ് കിട്ടുന്നില്ല. എന്റെയിലേക്ക് മാറ്റിയാ ഞാൻ പറ്റും, പക്ഷെ അവന്റെ അക്കൗണ്ട് കംപ്ലീറ്റ്ലി ഞാൻ അതുകൊണ്ട് അവന്റെ DP എല്ലാം ഇത്ര നേരം ഇത് എൻട്രെയിൻ ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരുന്നത്.
നീ നിന്റെ സെൻസിലോട്ട് മാറ്റിയോ?
ഇല്ല, എനിക്കൊരു ചാലഞ്ച് വരാം. അവർ പറഞ്ഞ ഒരു ട്രൈ ഹാർഡ് മോഡിലല്ല, ജസ്റ്റ് വെറുതെ കളിക്കാനാണ്. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ വിചാരിച്ച് ഒരു ഫണ്ടിന് വേണ്ടി ഞാൻ ആഷന്റെ സെൻസ് ഇട്ട് കളിക്കായിരുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ മൗസ് പാഡിൽ സ്പേസ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കി DP ഒക്കെ മാറ്റിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നു. ശരിയാളയാ, പിന്നെ കാണാം. ബൈ ബൈ.
പറ്റുമല്ലോ
എന്തോന്ന്
എന്നെ കൂടെ ഒന്ന് ഡിസ്കണക്ട് അടിച്ചോളാൻ.
എനിക്ക് പേംസ് ഉണ്ടോ?
ഉണ്ടെന്നാണ് എന്റെ വിശ്വാസം.
ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ DC നോക്കട്ടെ, ഒറ്റ സെക്കൻഡ്. എവിടെ നിന്നെ കിക്ക് ഡിസ്കണക്ട്? ശരിയാടാ, ബൈ ബൈ ബൈ. ഡിസ്കണക്ട് അളയാ, മനസ്സിലായി. എനിക്ക് കിക്കിന് പേംസ് ഇല്ല. ശരി, ബൈ. അപ്പൊ ഗൈസ്, അരമണിക്കൂർ വേസ്റ്റഡ് സക്സസ്ഫുള്ളി. ഐ തിങ്ക് അരമണിക്കൂറാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് അരമണിക്കൂർ. ഓക്കെ, വാലറന്റ് തീർന്ന് പെട്ടെന്ന് സ്മൈറ്റി കയറാന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചിരുന്നായിരുന്നു. ബട്ട് എന്റെ മോനെ ഇന്ന് കുറെ ആനിമേ കാണാനുണ്ടല്ലോ. At least
that she makes money and doesn't give a fuck what you think. So now the obvious question is why the Harry Potter game? Why this? Out of all of J.K. Rowling's sources of incomes, why is this the thing that people are targeting?
Okay.
Why are you so fixated on this game? It's funny because that's actually my question as well. Why are you so fixated on this game? It just seems so odd to me that out of every avenue she gets money from, you decide to go after this Warner Brothers video game that she's not even involved with. But I think I know why. Because it's easier. You get to get out of bed, pajamas on, go right onto your keyboard and type in Harry Potter game bad, therefore I'm a good person. At some point these movements always get hijacked by disingenuous individuals trying to look like the good guy for some type of purpose or validation.
See, my goal is to expose these boycotters for what they really are, slacktivists. So even though these people have no legitimate claim that we're all bigots, I can still respect their desire to boycott something, because it sure as shit ain't my place to tell you how to ethically spend your money. So don't tell me what to do. Do we have an accord? Good, let's shake on it. But nope, that's not how these folks operate. If you're not with me,
then you're my enemy.
Now, once the game hit early access, the boycott really started to spiral into pure degeneracy. Introducing, have they streamed that wizardinggame.com. Find out if anyone you follow on Twitch has streamed that new wizard game, so you can bully and harass them. This is a really productive use of everyone's time. Like, what the fuck, dog? You took time out of your day to make this database, then deleted it like 6 hours later. Think it's maybe time to lock this. Bro just came out with a search engine intended to be used to target and harass random Twitch streamers, but the second he starts getting flack, he cowers back in his molehill. You're a pussy. I also love the irony of him being afraid to say the name of the game. I think there was a similar concept like that in the books, maybe. So they tried bullying others into not streaming the game. Some succeeded, which is unfortunate. One such streamer was Hassan Piker, who's one of the biggest on Twitch. Now, he wanted to stream the game and do a fundraiser on those streams with charity funds that would go towards helping trans people, a noble cause. Luckily, his audience was apparently successful in convincing him not to play the game and not to raise money for that charity.
Everybody was like, don't play it, don't do it, don't play it and fundraise for a trans lifeline by playing that game. Okay, I won't. It's too much of a headache.
Way to go, guys. Good job. Good going. Mission accomplished. Good work. Congratulations on discouraging the Twitch streamers from raising money for a cause you all pretend to care about. Real class act.
Nicely done. Your work here today has made the Chancellor a very happy man.
The only reason why I'm not playing this game, and I know a bunch of other people are not playing this game, is because we know that it's not worth it to get fucking bullied endlessly and called transphobic endlessly.
You know, part of me is like, Hassan, why should you give a fuck what these people think? But the other part of me understands that, like, you don't want to bring such a toxic, divisive topic to your audience. Like, I totally understand as a content creator just not wanting to deal with that at all. But it's fucking wild that this man is getting any shit at all for talking about Hogwarts Legacy when he just used his platform to raise over $1 million for victims of the earthquake in Turkey. These people complaining don't care about charity. We saw this with Mr. Beast. You can do the nicest things and they will still hate you. So don't even bother trying to please them. It's a waste of time. So after the boycott resulted in much more press, promotion, sales, and popularity of the game, the boycotters showed their true colors. After exhausting all their options, they have resorted to spoiling the game's story and ending for as many people as possible. I kind of figured this would happen, you know? The boycotters, they're what we thought they were.
They're what we thought they were.
True degenerates. It was never about doing something positive or improving the lives of trans people. They simply wanted to ruin this piece of media for you. That was their true goal. The boycotters
are who we thought they were. They are who we thought they were.
Of all the marginalized communities out there, the trans community is arguably the worst served by its supposed advocates. Couldn't have said it better myself. If their goal was to lower overall revenue for this game, they utterly failed at that. And if their goal was to promote positivity towards the trans community, they have failed because they continue to portray themselves as the ranged lunatic representing that community.
You lose! Good day, sir!
Good to see the boycott has naturally turned into targeted harassment with its own database to boot. Think I'll take 2 copies of Hogwarts Legacy now. So you're going to buy a pro-slavery game twice to own the trans community?
Split
You're a
push!
talker. Listening to talkers makes me thirsty.
I don't think you understand the situation. I understand that if any more words come to my cut months.
I'm going to have to buy every single copy of Hogwarts Legacy. I guess my black ass playing this game now supports slavery. Good lord.
You didn't ask for this. You choose this.
Okay, so one thing to say, like, the game is transphobic, but pro-slavery?
Fucking talking about
Hateful film. It must have had a huge negative impact on Hogwarts Legacy, its sales, review scores, viewership, and Steam charts, right?
Words have failed. The time to fight has come. Remember your allies. 2 axes, 2 kills.
These numbers are all from minions.
They were warned, but sure, don't trust the watcher who sees.
These are all
Here's
players
all.
who pre-ordered the deluxe edition for early access? Well, boycotters, I only got one thing to say to you.
Congratulations. Enjoy yourself.
I already got the title for J.K. Rowling's next book. Harry Potter and the Law of Unintended
That was a bit too easy. An enemy has been slain.
I wasn't going to buy the game, but now I am.
An
You
ally
can just
has
say
been
Harry
slain.
Potter's written by a transphobe, so you're transphobic for watching it, and then leave it at that. You're not actually advancing something. For me, this is more about unsuccessful and successful protest movements
That
and
was
how
a bit
people
too
end up
easy.
hyper-focusing or lasering in on certain things that otherwise are counterproductive.
Their methods of boycotting are so obnoxious that in their face, they actually become counterproductive to the cause itself. Glad you enjoyed your Nazi propaganda. That is a reach so long, I don't even think I haven't stopped
Your sacrifice will not be in vain.
Tomato sauce on famous works of art to boycott something, I guess. And everyone's like, "Wow, that's
An
a pretty
ally
douchey
has
thing
fallen.
to do."
Quick,
don't want to be
reinforce his
associated
guard.
with whatever you're boycotting or whatever you're protesting because you seem like a fucking dickhead, bro. I heard about people those people deserve to
Even
have
in
the
numbers,
ass
they are
beat.
no
You're
match.
just trying to
Double
take
kill.
enjoyment out of other people's lives for literally nothing in return. John Porter is. I got a new boycott tactic for you guys.
has been slain.
Look at some of the mainstream.
An enemy has been slain.
From protagonist. In the story for Hogwarts Legacy was revealed around crushing a rebellion led by an oppressed race. The game is about keeping those uppity in their place. Did Kanye write that review? Game journalist Legacy fantasy world. This is you. Let's talk about bullying people for playing Hogwarts Legacy. Yes, let's. The big news about Hogwarts Legacy is this Ninja streamer getting upset.
What fury! Killing spree! Remember your
I love how
allies.
the writer starts with a little bias of her own towards straight people for some reason.
They were warned, but sure, don't trust the watcher to see it all.
It's important referencing that clip that went viral. Not emotional and had to leave the
fury!
stream, potentially
Killing
crying.
spree!
No, the people sending death threats and harassing streamers and coming up with
What
websites
fury!
to harass people
Killing
and
spree!
trying to spoil the game. Those are the bullies. Was this person
That was a bit too easy.
these things have any real proof behind them? Just to downplay any potential harassment that might have occurred. Like seeing how toxic some of the boycotts are, it's completely believable that they would say some wild shit in girlfriend reviews. Ultimately, they were accused of supporting bigotry.
An enemy has been slain.
But it's also assuming that the comments that caused that clip were completely reasonable questions. Remind me again about the layers of bias in game journalism? To my knowledge, J.K. Rowling basically said, oh yeah, pay me royalties. That was the extent of her involvement. And yet all these people are also willing to attack their own
Remember your allies.
themselves. It's like you are blind firing everyone involved in this game. Are there trans people who talk in extremes about this game? Absolutely. But for every example you hit back with of exactly that happening, respond tenfold to what happens to us. This is not a two wrong.
This warrior is on a rampage. I take no pleasure in seeing such a skilled warrior. Double kill.
I'm homeless, so you're struggling. Stop playing the suffering Olympics. On the internet, shouted at and harassed constantly by playing Hogwarts Legacy and they don't like it. What's that? People don't like being harassed?
I don't believe it.
What?
An ally has
To
been
me,
slain.
I love targeted harassment too, and I can tell you're a big fan of it as well. You give off that vibe of like,
That
I
was
enjoy
a
suffering
bit too
and
easy.
hope it spreads to others, and I can really get down with that vibe, you know? More people should be harassed.
An enemy has been slain.
On Saturday, February 4th, I was made aware of the extensive and blatant ad campaign for Hogwarts Legacy on Twitch, utilizing it.
An ally has fallen. Reinforced. That was a bit too easy.
I'm trans myself. No one cares. Perspective was enjoy Hogwarts Legacy.
What fury! Killing spree! An enemy has been slain. Remember your allies.
Some good takes,
What fury!
not even
Killing spree!
Recognize that this is about engagement on Twitter, a feeling of hopelessness and nothing else. This is the thing, dude. When you surround these people with like, hey, you could actually contribute, like I did, like I donated.
You'll watch more are
Can like
coming.
Harry Potter, but also not agree with or support JK's views. Like, do we really need to be sending death threats over this shit? Stop thinking rationally on Twitter. Whether or not we want to admit it, it is impossible to talk about
Minions have reached your fortress. They were warned, but sure, don't trust the one. Here's all.
As a transgender individual, I have no interest in that kind of fairness or objectivity when it comes to Hogwarts legacy. I find moral imbalance. Yes, the layers of bias in reporting on Hogwarts legacy should not be
An ally has been slain. They were warned, but sure, don't trust the watchers. They chose to fight us. It is only their fault.
This profession.
I think it's safe to say we truly do live
An enemy has been
and actually
slain.
good games and mid-score. They are the ones that are coming out with balanced takes about separating J.K. Rowling from the outside world.
Two axes, two kills.
Something of fair and balanced.
This warrior is on a rampage. Someone stop them. Oh, seriously, stop
A
them.
good critic can do that, but a hack critic will expose themselves as being too biased to take an objective. Writing this article, personal ransom. You are a hack. There is no magic in Hogwarts legacy. The game is mid at best. 1 out of 10. I love that.
That was a bit too easy. What fury! Killing spree! An enemy has been slain.
This is a review of Hogwarts Legacy. It's a game a 1 out of 10.
Shut
are
down.
directly about the game itself. You are a hack. These people are why trust in game journalism has been eroded. You have no business reviewing games for a profession. Quit. Get your ass out. You are a hack. Now, the unfortunate reality is that a lot of these games
That was a bit too easy.
some of them
You have been slain.
the world burn. See, I'm all for people they believe in.
An enemy has been slain.
Circle jerk and dilute that vision of positivity.
That
turn it
was
into an
a
attack.
bit too
They
easy.
simply echo their opinions in exchange for internet points. Points that contribute nothing to the actual
An enemy has been slain. Remember your What fury!
Stop pretending
Killing
like you
spree!
can't. Fucking donate to a lifeline. The mod team at r/David Circle would rather pay spoilers for the game than a fucking charity. These people got no problems wasting hours and hours bitching and moaning on Twitter, screeching
An
into
ally
the
has
void.
fallen.
But when
Quick,
confronted
reinforce
with
his
something
guard.
that has a tangible positive benefit.
An ally has been slain.
I just wanted to finally say thank you for actually being a real-world change for trans people like
That
me.
was
I don't
a bit
believe
too
playing
easy.
games makes you transphobic. I do believe villainizing people for playing games makes you more transphobe. And harassing people is also a way to win allies.
I want to make it. There is a saying.
An enemy has been slain.
Right? Like, the moment you get into this, they're like, they're not really going to be out. One probably
Remember your allies.
which is the last thing you want.
What fury! Killing spree!
My life
They don't even know what hit them. What fury! Killing spree!
A bit too easy. Raising money. None of that. I don't even know
An enemy has been slain.
He's annoying and makes game with broke.
That was a bit too easy. They were warned, but sure, don't trust the one who sees here off. Valhalla awaits you, Valhalla.
You become exactly what you hate. A monster.
Remember
For the most
your
part,
allies.
the people getting Hogwarts Legacy,
Fury!
it doesn't mean
Killing
anything to
spree!
them, except they just love Harry Potter. Now sharing them with you.
Even in numbers, they are no match.
Alienating people.
Double kill!
Somebody can understand this.
An enemy has been slain.
So in conclusion, just because you avoid something you can feel is a moral imperative does not mean you can act like a shitty person and everyone should just excuse that. I know this video was a bit out there for what I typically post on the main channel, but rest assured that this is not a new direction for the channel or anything. I really just had to vent on this because the amount of stupidity and shitheads I saw is just like the fire in my heart. I think at this point we should actively look for this.
An ally has fallen. This warrior is on a rampage. An ally has been slain. An enemy falls. Double kill.
For developing the game.
Triple kill.
Thank you all for
watching. Fury. Killing spree.
Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content.
ആദ്യം
Alright,
അൾക്കടിച്ചാൽ
everyone, that's all I got
മതിയായിരുന്നു
for today. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace.
Are video games too sexist? How about racist?
Including some asking if the game industry is sexist.
Games community is at each other's throat when talking about the subject of race.
Racism in video games, the new norm?
In some countries are responding to what they view as sexism in video games.
The more time a teenage boy spends playing video games, the more likely he'll be to develop sexist attitudes. They say perpetuate a culture of sexism
70,000 minion damage, literally.
In video games, stereotypes. Saddle up, internet. We're going there.
Okay, I see.
In the war against video games, we learned that there's always something destroying society, and we learned that violence in video games had massive amounts of coverage and research over the course of 40 years. There was something to be said about violent media affecting the minds of people, yet it overshadowed the sexism and equality debate. But the attacks on gaming from feminists and SJWs have had extensive coverage in the last 5 years. Sexism and racism has been a topic of debate on the video game industry since the 1980s, although it never got that much attention back then. But as the industry continued to grow, and with the advent of the internet allowing anyone to easily have their opinions seen and heard, the issue of sexism, misogyny, and race in gaming started popping up all over media websites, game journalists, on YouTube, everywhere. The combined might of feminism, the social justice movement, and the idea of racial diversity and equality was enough to bring up serious questions on the ethics of the video game industry. Were some games made with racist or sexist attitudes in mind? Is this even a real issue? With so many articles, videos, and opinions floating around cyberspace, join me as I seek to understand both sides and settle this battle of feminism and SJWs versus video games. In order to understand a current issue, we have to look back at what potentially caused it. We can't just look at World War II and be like, it's just a bunch of pissed off Germans wanted to rule the world and kill Jews. And that, children, is a complete summary of the Second World War. There's more to it than that. So to understand why feminists and SJWs have been attacking the game industry, we have to look back at the origins of that industry. This part might not be as entertaining or fun as the rest of the video, but god damn it, this is the most critical point of the whole issue. It's important to understand that video games are a business first and foremost. And any business worth their salt is going to identify the type of people that purchase their products. Then they'll market and advertise to appeal to those consumers, to the demographic. For example, my channel is entirely based around video games, which is why you'll never see me make a video on fucking leather belts or something.
Leather belt? Ah!
The target audience for video games back in the 70s and 80s was predominantly young males, teenagers, and back then arcades were tailored towards this demographic. As you can see in this archive footage of gaming arcades, the people playing them are almost entirely boys, teenagers, and a few adult males. One of the big breakthroughs in broadening the gaming demographic to women and girls was Pac-Man. Toru Iwatani, the creator, intended the game to attract women to arcades, and it was successful, spurning the sequel Miss Pac-Man. If the game industry only appealed to one gender, they're missing out on 50% of the population and money they could be making. A study done in 1982 found the percentage of male to female gamers was 80% male and 20% female, roughly. As the years went on, higher percentages of women played video games. Recently, a statistic has been circling the web claiming women make up around or more than half of the gaming population. But this statistic doesn't mean we've reached a point where gaming as a whole has an equal target demographic, because what's really important is understanding which genre and type of games males and females like to play. I want you to pay close attention to this chart that lays out the percentages of women who play which genre of game. Notice that only 2 of the genres listed are predominantly played by women. I didn't even know what Match 3 was before this video, but it's a genre game where you match 3 tiles. Yeah, there's a genre for that. So applying this chart to the gaming industry, it should be apparent why most games are marketed to appeal to men. By understanding how the target audience for video games has changed over the years and how it is currently, we see why video games were marketed and created with the male demographic primarily in mind, and how gaming culture has shaped into what it is today. Remember this fucking chart, because it is goddamn important.
Are games racist? Yeah.
Mario! That is like a stereotype that runs around inside of your Nintendo, man.
This study showing that playing video games for Caucasian college students could result in racist thoughts and behavior.
The first scene is the black dude just getting his ass kicked. Specifically by a white dude.
Sometimes I believe the hype man. We mess it up ourselves and blame the white man. But don't point the finger, you jigaboo. Take a look at yourself, you dumb nigga, you.
What's happening to the video game industry right now has been happening to Hollywood and the film industry for the last century, though not nearly as extreme. The same complaint made against Hollywood is being made against video games. There isn't enough diversity.
What in the hell's diversity?
For movies, this had merit, as discrimination and inequality was rampant in the film industry. Don't get me wrong, it's important that games and movies have a unique cast of characters to represent different types of people from all across the world. A diverse pool of people can bring interesting perspectives to the table, but it's not as simple as checking off the Black, Asian, and Mexican boxes for characters. This creates tokenism, which is when a form of art or a story specifically inserts diverse characters for no other reason than they feel they have to, not because of what they're trying to do. Ironically enough, when they do feature diverse locations or settings, they play the race card if there are or aren't representation for race X, as in the case with Left 4 Dead 2.
What does Hurricane Katrina
10 seconds.
and setting the game in New Orleans have to do with one another?
Reloading,
And what do they have to do with racist undertones of video games? Nothing.
I speak for myself, but I imagine most non-racist, non-sexist people would agree. When I watch a movie or play a game, I don't think to myself, oh hey, this has a black lead character. Oh yeah, that's diverse, that's good. I'm more interested in the writing, the photography, the sound, the
music, dialogue, the character itself. Unless it relates to the subject matter of the story itself, I don't give a fuck about the color of their skin. I just want to be entertained, and if possible, see a culture or idea I've never seen before. See, the real problem is seeing a lack of diversity as a problem. When you boil down the quality of any art or narrative down to a gender or percentage of skin tones, you are making the diversity quota an issue. Take this stereotypical hipster.
Also, some reasons as to why GTA 5 is actually objectively sexist. First up, reason 1, 3 male leads.
What? Objectively sexist? Okay, is Charlie's Angels objectively sexist? That features 3 female leads. What kind of fucking logic is that? You got 3 lead characters, one of them's not female? Boom, sexism.
It's about discovering who your character is, and there's a lot more to that than skin color. And the same goes for gender, sexuality, religion, and all those other facets of diversity too.
Some of the games that have come under criticism from a lack of diversity or racism will just blow your fucking mind.
You get to choose what torture device you get to use on the random clown guy. So you can either electrocute him or waterboard him or pull his teeth out. It's like nice that you get to choose how to hate.
The racism has shifted from overt caricatures to overt actual real.
Yes, some games do have stereotypes, but the mere depiction of a stereotype doesn't make a game racist. If you're playing a game and you think the characters might be racist stereotypes, ask yourself, is this meant to depict a greater image about the characteristics of an entire group of people? Is this just a simple, easy way for game developers to create diverse characters? Or is it just meant to be funny? The whole point of making fun of stereotypes is to allow us to laugh at ourselves.
Every time white dudes pass out around each other,
bomb diffuser in place.
Man, game shit when the guys asleep.
All friendlies were eliminated. Mission failure.
Are spot on again and again, even in some of the less prominent races. The Spaniards, for example, are portrayed as effete, beclawed homosexuals in colorful spandex, just as they are in real life.
So when people get so butthurt over this kind of stuff, I think it's a sign of insecurity.
It's only racist if it was made with racist intent.
One of the most controversial was Resident Evil 5, which was based in a fictionalized part of Africa and had you fight against zombies with dark skin. Yet the way SJWs reacted to this, it seems to imply that we can't have video games set in the continent of Africa because doing so is inherently racist.
The most recent game I played recently was probably Resident Evil 5. The bad guys in this game, which are all just Africans with spears.
Secure the area, keep the bombs protected.
It's in Africa. It's been in Antarctica. It's been, I think, in Spain. It's been in the Midwest. It wasn't racist then. Why should it be racist now? It's in Africa.
Have fun with the game. Play the game.
If location can make a game racist,
reinforcements nearly done.
then why isn't the Jewish community in an uproar over games that take place in Germany? And here's another question. If they made the indigenous people of the villages in Resident Evil 5 white, wouldn't you still complain because the game was inaccurate and the developers failed to depict the people of the villages in a proper manner?
Down to 10 seconds.
Of course you would. That would be something to complain about.
Take Witcher 3, for example, made by a Polish game developer, based on a novel written by a Polish man living in Poland who based that novel on Polish mythology and European folklore. Now, Witcher 3 came under fire and criticism because it features an all-white cast. You want to know why there aren't any black, Asian, or Mexican dudes in Witcher 3? The exact same reason that African movies feature mostly African people. Or Chinese films feature mostly, you won't get this, Chinese people. Because any piece of art is going to reflect the culture from where it originates. Remember when I talked about target audience, demographics? Well, the majority of people in America are white, while the majority of sexual orientation is straight, and the majority of people who play hardcore games are men. So if you use your handy-dandy notebook and tally up the numbers, you'd see the reason why so many games have straight white male protagonists and characters is because that's the goddamn demographic. Well, I want you to guess the demographic of Poland. Just take a guess. Take a second. If you guess 98.5% Caucasian, you're right. Skin color does not define culture. And that's the point I want to make. Culture in video games is more important than skin color. I'll say this once more. Skin color does not define culture. But this article by Polygon seems to think otherwise. Reviews have lavished praise, perfect scores, and awards on it, while some reviews have mentioned issues such as sexism. None I read mentioned another crucial misstep. Not a single human in the game is a person of color. And it's tied to the central issue here that gaming as a whole needs to face. Concerns of minority groups are not only ignored, they're so often not even considered. Yes, according to Tariq here, representing people of color is an issue the entire gaming industry needs to face no matter what country you come from, because fuck your nation, fuck your culture, fuck your history, give me diversity, or I'll write a shitty, racist article about it. Almost every Witcher 3 review I came across was written by a white man. Who gives a fuck? Are you here to review the game or just be fucking racist? Historically accurate is another common defense for many awful actions in fiction. What? Are you saying change history for the sake of diversity? What fucking planet do you live on? This goes to show no matter what you do, someone will be pissed off about it for some reason. So who would DICE rather piss off with Battlefield 1? Historians and fans of the series? Or a bunch of butthurt blathering babies that want to see history changed to include women in a war that they barely even fought in? Who would CD Projekt Red rather piss off? The Polish nation, the people and mythology of Poland, or some fuckwit dingoes that care too much about skin color? Tariq Musa saw a game gaining massive praise and attention, and he saw nobody talking about the lack of colored people, so he was like, but what about people of color? You racist, you dehumanizing racist fucks? You want equality, dude? How many Polish video games are there that you know of? I guarantee, for 99.9% of gamers, this is it. This is Poland's video game industry. How many people of color have you seen in video games? Hundreds. So rather than rejoice, like this guy, in the fact that the Polish nation can take pride in one of their works being so critically acclaimed by the world, this backwards asshat of a man tries to self-victimize himself and disregard the nation of Poland. Obama doesn't even play games, and he recognizes the accomplishments of the Polish people in making The Witcher. This article is a perfect example of how SJWs can get so wrapped up in their own ideology that they don't realize what they're writing is racist, culturally insensitive, and virtue-signaling propaganda that attacks the very diversity it seeks to promote. I bet most of you watching this right now never actually thought to yourself, hey, I haven't seen insert skin color of person that isn't white in this game. You know why you don't think that? Because you're a normal fucking person that doesn't look and judge things based on color.
Isn't that the point of equality, to highlight the fact that we are all equal, that we are all human beings, that skin color is irrelevant? If so, why does it matter what the color of anybody's fucking skin is?
America has a big history with race because we are a very diverse country. But as Morgan Freeman wisely said,
how are we going to get rid of racism? Stop talking about it.
Stop making it an issue. Stop trying to put race into every discussion, into every piece of media and art. Stop trying to make race an issue. People are so concerned about diversity that they'll write page after page, article after article. Why not just write a diverse story?
I think a lot of these people spend so much time behind Twitter that they forget that they have two hands. They have a brain. They have the ability to create, to design, to explore, to imagine. They have all of these tools at their disposal, but instead of actually taking the time to put their money where their fucking mouth is, they sit behind a computer screen and complain.
These types of articles are systematic problems of game journalist ethics. They resort to clickbait and cause controversy around popular, well-known games. Is there a lack of diverse people from different cultures as video game protagonists and in the industry? Perhaps, but it's not really an issue. That's just the demographics of America. Now, if you want to change what video game companies have come to, you'd need to change the demographics, and good luck with that. But it seems to me like people want to change the way our culture and other cultures and countries create art to fit their own standards and ideologies of diversity and racial acceptance. And that seems far more damaging to society than a lack of diversity ever could be.
Because the more you
baby, shotgun buddies, baby, shotgun,
Despite the number of articles and videos I've gone through, it's hard to even understand what it is feminists and SJWs want. What really is the end goal or the vision they are seeking? Okay, so you're tired of seeing sexy women in video games. So you want unattractive women in video games. Why? You want unattractive men in video games? Why? It's art. You can make your characters look however you want. I feel retarded even having to say this, but people like things that are attractive. If you want more diversity in the skin color of characters, okay, how much more do you want? How are you gonna get it? So they want more women and colored people working in the industry. Alright, why are you not directing your articles towards the minority groups you want represented? Why aren't you trying to convince them that a job in the video game industry is something to be desired? There's a reason certain jobs are dominated by specific groups of people. Women just aren't as interested in engineering as men are. Is the engineering industry sexist because women aren't interested in it? Fuck no. People like different things, and there is no perfect harmony of equality that can be achieved in every single industry across the globe. I'm constantly wondering what the goal is. An equal amount of men, women, colored people in video games, making games, playing games, and promoting games? Is that even realistic? It's hard to find a feminist or SJW that can articulate their points in a way that gamers can empathize and still be somewhat respectable. But at least there is one, the factual feminist.
Are there video games that are rife with sexism? Is that true? Do they promote a culture of misogyny and violence that must be dismantled? Well, my answer is no.
As far as I can tell, there really is no tangible end goal for these people. It's all about pushing an ideology, conforming people to that ideology, begging for attention, clicks, views, virtue signaling. You see, so many of these videos and articles don't actually provide a solution or a means to get there. So it's just bitching and moaning. In the quest for diversity and equality, it appears what feminists and SJWs want games to do is pretty straightforward. More women in strong roles, ethnically diverse characters, protagonists, armor should not be lingerie, etc. I think that sounds reasonable, but looking past the surface value of these blanket statements and actually listening to what these people want,
Swapping mag!
There's so many layers of irony, it's hard to wrap your mind around it. You can't portray women as victims of violence or abuse. You can't portray women as being violent or abusive. You can't portray women as sexy. Women in the industry can't portray women as being sexy. You can't not portray women at all. You can't portray a woman being rescued by a man. You can't portray black people getting killed. You can't portray black people killing. You can't portray any stereotype. You can't have a game set in the continent of Africa. You can't not portray people of all different skin colors and genders, regardless of if it makes no sense within the context of the setting of the game.
Would you like it if we only made games that were approved of by every single person on the planet? That's a good idea, huh? But if that were the case, I guess game production would stop in its tracks and no game would ever be eliminated.
Alright, well if we listen to these people, what can we do? That's the thing, they'd never be happy. Because most of these feminists and SJWs are complaining about video games to an American audience, but then try to take games from other countries and apply American principles to those. What's that? Japanese companies are making games showing scantily clad women playing volleyball? Stereotyping people from other nations? Quickly, American principle card activate.
Well, as you probably noticed, most of the people who criticize video game content for being offensive or problematic tend to be Americans speaking to an American audience. But since American studios are not responsible for producing so much of what gets criticized, it seems to me that any criticism that fails to distinguish between American studios and Japanese studios is deeply unfocused and unproductive.
Ironic how the stereotypical American policing the world is trying to control what game companies from other nations put in their games. You're becoming the American stereotype that you don't want represented in video games. Yet you believe you own the world, that because you're American, your sense of morality is better than every other country. All these propositions from feminists and SJWs is just restriction, silencing certain expressions of speech, which ironically is against American principles. And the most ironic part is all these feminists and SJWs complain about the sexism, racism, yada yada in video games, but at the end of the day, who do they expect to fix this problem in a white, male-dominated industry? Now, there's nothing more hilarious in my book than when someone bites off more than they can chew and then blames the food when they chew. It takes a special type of thinking to believe you can attack and harass a group of people and call yourself a victim when they swing back. let alone against a community of people that have been attacked by mainstream media, by politicians, by their parents, by just about everyone. That's what so many of these feminists and SJWs do, constantly play victim, to the point that they actually make it a profession.
After all, Rihanna Wu is making 40% of Barack Obama's salary for simply existing, so this harassment narrative is working quite well for them.
But I'll take a note from Sarkeesian's book. When women constantly portray themselves as victims, it disempowers them because now they need to be saved by someone else, and they can't deal with the threats they face on their own. Coincidentally, I'll be discussing Gamergate as well. Look, nobody approves of death threats, but if you're gonna publicly insult and demonize millions of gamers and the industry they love, you can't act shocked when you get threats like that. These people didn't attack you first. You weren't doing anything, then you attacked them. Not to mention, you attacked them on the fucking internet. People on the internet are gamers. If you don't want to be harassed, don't incite the wrath of the internet. Now, the logic of professional victims is something like this. I'm sure this is a fallacy in some philosophy book. I am being targeted and harassed by many people. Decide I am losing. Therefore, you should take my side, because you're an empathetic human and you know, there's an age-old saying, don't talk shit if you can't
Make way for Boogie!
This is why society has to form checks and balances, right? When someone's talking shit out of their mouth, society checks that person so that they don't wreck themselves. Right, but if the person is so arrogant and self-absorbed that they can't check themselves, they're gonna wreck themselves. There's also the famous story of the boy who cried wolf, and it particularly applies to the case of Brianna Wu. For those who don't know, Brianna Wu is a professional victim, and she's actually a dude. Real name, John Flint. Yep, she's a real fucking Frank Fontaine, and a con artist who perpetuates harassment towards herself for personal gain. Now don't take this as a knock against trans people, because the point is John Flint uses his experience as a woman to justify his terrible actions and gain support through donations. With the amount of evidence showing this dude's false flagging, how he created accounts to harass himself, and narcissistic way of tying every possible tragedy back to him, it's hard to take any possible death threat against him seriously. And this is one of the spearheads of the anti-Gamergate movement. Why should anyone believe this death threat wasn't fabricated like the others? John Flint had brought on the wolves so hard so many times that now he's being harassed by people because he faked being harassed and is trying so hard to become a victim. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. At least death threats are exactly what they are. But this maliciousness is far worse than that. Purposefully inciting hatred, diverting police resources away from actual issues, all for the sake of what? Equal representation in video games? Or is it more likely self-gain? Then we've got Zoe Quinn, another con artist who once again takes on multiple aliases. She did a little bit of porn here, but you know, that doesn't matter because her corruption and the shittiness of her character has been well exposed and documented. Like John Flint, she's got a shady as fuck background that if you want to know more, check the description for a link. Of course, there's Anita Sarkeesian, and fuck me if I'm gonna spend any time dissecting that turd basket. But you know, people like this really make me appreciate Jack Thompson. Though an irrational, single-minded guy who was wrong about pretty much everything he said and did, at least he was straightforward, and sometimes actually had good intentions. He wasn't a fucking snake like these witches. He wasn't a self-victimizing cunt, just a dude fighting the wrong battle. Now, the optimist in me wants to believe that many of these SJWs and feminists have good intentions. But people like John Flint, Zoe Quinn, Anita Sarkeesian, they just make me think like those people with good intentions are also doing it for nothing more than selfish personal gain. When you've got this type of representation at the top of your movement, it makes everyone else look like shit. And that's the real tragedy of these self-victimizing lunatics. At the end of the day, this was a war waged by feminists and SJWs. They brought the fire, but we had more fire. Any positive message that could have actually done some good in the world and in the game industry was hidden behind a mess of pathological lying, manipulation, corruption, hatred, and narcissism. This resulted in their attempts at making the game industry more inclusive and representing women more fairly utterly meaningless. Gamergate was successful, and the people that opposed it so fervently were exposed as the narcissists. I'm going to briefly talk about some of Anita's videos, but more importantly how the greater message behind her work is inherently flawed and inconsequential.
This brings us to one of the core reasons why the trope is so problematic and sensitive for women's representation.
Whoa, look Anita, you want me to get my fucking English teacher in here? Because English must not have been your strong suit. If it was, you'd know that a trope is a storytelling tool.
The tale of how Crystal went from protagonist of her own epic adventure to the passive victim in someone else's game illustrates how the damsel in distress trope disempowers.
Okay, so there's the wimpy kid trope, disempower boys. Do you see anyone making a big fucking deal about Urkel? Does the dumb muscle trope disempower men, making them look unintelligent? No, it's a type of fucking character.
So the damsel trope typically makes men the subject of narrative, while relegating women to the role of objects. This is a form of objectification because as objects, damsel women are being acted upon.
What about
Yeah,
Zelda?
Pandey
She's a
victorious.
damsel in distress, and even in that role, she's the title of the game. Not only that, sometimes she fucks shit up. How about Bastila, who starts off as a damsel in distress? She's labeled as a prize, as a slave. But again, she fucks shit up. And she's not a prize for just a male character, you can be a female character too. She even becomes stronger when she turns to the dark side and is still a damsel in distress at that point. How about Princess Fiona? She's a pretty badass damsel in distress. You see, you can't just take a single trope from storytelling and suddenly start to say that now its implementation in video games is disempowering women or a specific group in the real world. Why the fuck was it not doing that for the last 5,000 years? It's all about how the storyteller uses this trope, not that the trope itself is a problem.
The hero's fight to retrieve his stolen property then provides the lazy justification for the actual gameplay.
You know, at least I can partially agree with Anita here, because in many cases it is lazy. But when the demographic is primarily men, they're going to naturally be appealed to this trope because they have that inner fantasy of rescuing a woman, of being a hero themselves. It's not about sexual objectification. It's not about the disempowerment of women. It's about overcoming a challenge, feeling proud of that, and saving someone. So while it is a somewhat lazy and overused trope in video games, it's not inherently sexist. It's all about what the storyteller or artist chooses to portray. There is no single storytelling mechanic that is detrimental to society or disempowers people. I appreciate the thought, effort, and research that must have gone into making these videos. I can really appreciate that. Games need to be fun before they can tell a good story. So I understand why games have a lazy justification. But this series is nothing more than an analysis of the damsel in distress trope in video games. All these videos that took $160,000 don't mean diddly dick if you can't prove or show some kind of point, which was your goal. But there's no proof that this trope is damaging. There's just hearsay. How could you even quantify the damage this causes? It's like that South Park episode Cartoon Wars. If you allow one group of people to dictate what is and isn't okay in storytelling and art, then every other group can do the same, until storytelling becomes a stale art restricted only by what will or won't hurt people's feelings. All this does is advocate for restrictive storytelling.
Try and think of the game development industry as a big clubhouse with boys only written on the front, right?
Even if it's by accident, nerd culture does manage to exclude women and LGBTQ plus people in a bunch of different ways.
We're saying gaming can no longer be this little boys club anymore.
One of the biggest points people like Sarkeesian make is that gamers want to remain a boys club, or that we don't want to include other people with differing sexual preferences or whatever. This is so far from the truth of what is at the core of the gaming experience, which is being an all-inclusive club. For so many years, gaming was looked at as a thing for nerds, geeks. The stereotypical 35-year-old man living in his mom's basement was paraded around as if it represented all of gamers. They used to get bullied for being nerds, and games like Dungeons & Dragons were a source of refuge for these people. They could enjoy the things they loved with other people that felt the same way, and not worry about being discriminated or made fun of, not worry about parents scolding them or what the news media was saying, to just have fun playing what they loved. The idea that we don't want more women or people of color playing or making video games is just absurd. That's why we like seeing hot women in video games, because we wish we had girlfriends that played video games with us. So no straight male gamer would ever look at a girl that plays video games as something bad. I mean, if I had a girlfriend that played video games, man, fuck making out, having sex, and all that gay shit. Let's go play Halo, dude. Let's fuck shit up in Dark Souls. Let's play a Mario Kart drinking game. This flawed concept that gamers were harassing women because they're sexist and don't want them in the industry was the basis of the anti-Gamergate position and the reason for their self-victimization, which is why Not Your Shield became a movement. Anti-Gamergate was using minorities and women as a shield and saying that they were on the sides of those minorities.
It's the gaming community that
has risen up because it is tired of being lied about and slandered by its own press.
Realistically, unless you're playing Dota, League of Legends, or Call of Duty multiplayer, gamers don't care if you're gay, what color your skin is, or if you're a girl. All we care about is having fun and sometimes being competitive. Gaming is a medium that people of all walks of life can meet and make friends online. People from different countries or with disabilities, social outcasts, everyone can have a home in gaming if they're a good person at heart and they share their love with others.
In fact, the world of games is rich and diverse, and there's room for everyone. So why give young women this discouraging message that they're not wanted?
So no, we don't want to be a voice. We want diversity. We want to meet people from different countries, of different ethnicities. What we don't want is a social ideology infesting and restricting the hobbies we love. Now let's wrap this up and talk real shit. Just as it was with the war against video games, the idea that video games and the industry itself is racist, sexist, homophobic, pro-genocide, or whatever has no real concrete evidence or proof. It's the exact same problem as before. You got these studies that say gamers become more X after playing Y and answering the question Z.
Correlation always proves causation, doesn't it? Like this graph showing per capita cheese consumption and the number of people who die by becoming tangled in their bed sheets. Or this one, which clearly shows that margarine consumption is directly responsible for divorce rates in Maine, because correlation always implies causation.
Simply put, there are no statistics, research, or feedback that lead one to reasonably believe video games cause racial or sexist thoughts. And it'd be an even further stretch to imagine any sort of stereotype or lack of diversity in a video game having real-world consequences.
Would-be game reformers need to connect the games they criticize to negative world consequences. They need to show, not dogmatically assume, that video games make people sexist. The burden of proof rests with them.
Heck, even when Anita and Frank Fontaine went to the UN and wrote up a report on cyberbullying against women, the UN, after publishing the article, retracted it because the evidence presented in it was cited from bogus studies and discredited research. So if you're good enough to make it to the freaking United Nations and you still can't make a case, I'm sorry, but you're shit out of luck. And I can see the good intentions and well-meaning opinions of some of these people. But quite frankly, I would like to see more diverse stories in games. Different points of views we hardly ever see. I think there is a genuine value in that should be tapped by the gaming industry. I think we can be more diverse and represent women in a way that's good without having to cave to all the ridiculous demands. It all just comes back to what do artists want to do with their work? What do they want to achieve? And I think it's great when games put their characters in roles much different than what we're used to. It's always nice to see something refreshing that breaks the mold. Unfortunately, the vast majority of these SJW feminist articles and videos are just so ideologically driven and bent on changing the gaming industry, rather than these people being passionate game makers that want to add more of what they want to see. They can't and haven't reached the gaming audience because of the way they articulate their work. It's a vicious cycle. Complaining about X, but not actually doing or writing anything that would encourage people to change X. Then when these people's ideas are criticized, they hide in a shell, play victim and soak up as much sympathy as possible like a parasite, all while hiding behind the cover of saying gamers want to be a boys club. It's not productive, it distracts from real issues, and aside from getting a few laughs from these lol cows, it's just a waste of time for everyone. I'm sure tackling the discrimination of gays in Russia or role of women in Saudi Arabia is much more important than what color of skin or what clothes video game characters have. This quest for equality and diversity wasn't a highly publicized issue until just a few years ago. It wasn't an issue until it was made an issue, until gaming itself was attacked. To summarize, I'll get back to that great quote from
to try to blame Shakespeare and the violence in Shakespeare and the violence in art for violence that happens in the real world is something that's been tried for years and is always wrong.
It really isn't simple as that. Blaming media and art for violence, racism, or sexism has been tried for years and is always wrong. After Gamergate, many of these SJWs and feminists had faded into the abyss of obscurity. Views on feminist frequency were down, the PBS channel stopped uploading videos, and though some games and developers were affected by their ideologies, I believe video games will revert back to being the art form they were always meant to be.
Yeah, someone sent nasty words on the Twitter. Can we get the FBI to investigate, perhaps?
No, you know what's sexist? You know what's a tiring plot device? You, Anita.
Something being offensive is entirely subjective. For example, your absurdly thick-rimmed glasses, they offend me greatly.
You're not actually bashing and killing and doing terrible things to women. It's a game. It's a video game.
This totally proves that video games cause sex daffodils. That's why there was absolutely no sexism in the world before video games.
What's up, everybody? This is the IGN man here. Today, I'm handing out 8 out of 10s to every video game made over the last 10 years. That's right. The end of the decade and the start of the new one was upon us. So why not peer back into the past and take a look at some of the best and worst games from 2010 through 2019. The criteria for being on my list is simple. If I loved a game, or even if I didn't and respect its impact, I'll include it on my list for that year. Each year we'll have a selection of standout titles, and I will pick one candidate from each year as the best and worst games of the decade. The rest will be runner-ups. At the end of it, I'll give you my best or favorite list of games during this one. As before, these are just my opinions, and yours can differ. That's totally fine. I have also, shockingly, not played every game in the world, so if I don't mention something that is probably an obvious contender, chances are I never played it. Because of the sheer number of games in this video, I may be hard-pressed to talk very little about some of them. If you'd like to discuss with me and my community of fans your favorite and least favorite games of the decade, then head on over to our Discord. We can chat, shoot the shit, and just have a great time. The link will be in the description. Let's turn our attention to the awesomest and baddest games of the decade.
Oh shit.
Bop It Extreme is single-handedly the greatest product of all time, and I'm just fucking.
Slip space rupture detected.
You want to feel old? Well, isn't it mind-blowing that Reach even qualifies to be in this video? Graphically gorgeous, excellent campaign, coupled with an epic atmospheric score. The new and improved Forge mode inspired endless custom games, and started some of my favorite series on YouTube. Achievement Horse was the greatest thing ever. Reach definitely had a huge impact. It wasn't perfect, but Bungie really did send themselves out Sergeant Johnson style with their final iteration of Halo. I changed my mind. Fuck them.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
The perfect sequel does not exist.
Damn, look at them titties!
Mass Effect 2 not only improved upon everything we loved about the original, but also cut out the more annoying aspects like the Mako. With its diverse characters, emphasis on choices, and its third-person shooter action, Mass Effect 2 is one of the GOATs.
Oh,
my god! Oh!
This was a wildly different take on the horror genre. Most horror games have the occasional enemy that chases
Okay,
you
guys,
around. And you
give
can't
me
defeat
like
them. But with Amnesia,
5 minutes, I'll be
that's
RB.
the entire game. It might not have been the prettiest looking, but the psychological horror was unlike anything most gamers had experienced. It even made our Lord and Savior PewDiePie get his big break on YouTube.
Okay, big fan. Okay, thanks, Alayo. Sorry, I pressed that.
Where the Call of Duty series has often failed in its character-driven narratives, Black Ops 1 is a shining example of everything that can go right with a story.
The numbers, basically. What do they mean?
What a mystery that was. Treyarch packed in so much content that to me, it's become the gold standard of what a COD game should offer. Zombies was addicting as hell, and the Dead Ops arcade was a nice little side mode.
It's about time.
StarCraft 2 revitalized the RTS genre for a bit. Personally, I loved the single player and how challenging it was to grind out on the hardest difficulty. With incredible depth, graphics, and the glorious return of James Raynor and several other fan-favorite characters, StarCraft 2 has kept me entertained for years and years. There weren't many games in 2010 that I absolutely hated, but Power Gig Rise of the Sixth String stands out as a late trend chaser. Let's set ourselves apart by shipping a game with a real guitar. That'll go well. This was a niche title that you probably never heard of. It sold about 8 copies, but you know, it was pretty good. Pretty impressive just how popular a simple game like Minecraft can become. LA Noire has the sexiest menu music in the history of music. Exploring the seedy underbelly of a 1940s and 50s Los Angeles was stunning. This game broke new ground with its motion capture technology, giving us some of the most realistic and hilarious facial animations ever. Story wasn't half bad either. Cole Phelps is a straight up G, and I loved all the adventures and the mystery behind all the cases. Rockstar really nailed the whole old school detective feeling and captured the film noir style of the 40s and 50s. Might not have been as good as Oblivion in a lot of ways, but hot damn were these graphics groundbreaking in 2011. There's a reason why Skyrim has been relevant for 8+ years, and that's because of its addicting leveling, gameplay, and sense of progression. With a smaller world, the more interesting aspects to explore are more condensed, and you could sink hours into this game without even noticing time passing by. While Bethesda's vanilla version feels a bit lacking nowadays, the modding capabilities added endless possibilities for fun and adventure. The Dark Souls of Dark Souls games certainly took the industry by storm and changed everyone's perspective on difficulty. Dark Souls has become synonymous with difficulty, and also the annoying trend of game journalists comparing every slightly challenging experience to this. This masterpiece really came out of nowhere. The unforgiving difficulty turned off a lot of casual gamers, but those who persisted found one of the most satisfying and deep video games ever made. Miyazaki created an entirely unique universe that is shown and told through methods of storytelling that only a video game like this could capture. See my full review for further details.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Easily one of the biggest disappointments ever, but how could it not be after spending a whopping 15 years in development? When this game emerged from the depths, it was unpolished, childish, and overly simplistic. The Duke has been dead ever since.
Get the fuck out of here!
Mindjack had an interesting premise of being able to hack into enemies, vehicles, civilians, and all that. Only problem was, the game didn't work. And did I mention it looks like shit? Awful dialogue, too.
What the hell's going on?
All I know is someone wants us dead.
Us? You?
You, me, us. Think they give a damn?
This was supposed to be an easy mission.
This was the start of the downfall of BioWare. If you were to ask me what my most hated game of all time is, my first thought would be Dragon Age 2. Completely ruined everything that made Origins a masterpiece. Fucked up monotonous gameplay, shitty leveling. They removed armor customization in an RPG. Graphics somehow looked worse than anything on the previous generation of consoles. It was rushed out the door as fuck. Story would bore me to death as it crawls like a snail, watching paint dry and grass grow. They adopted the stupid dialogue wheel from Mass Effect and took all the thought and strategy out of the game. They basically just tried to copy Mass Effect, but Dragon Age was more akin to Knights of the Old Republic, and that's why it's so disappointing. The recycled dungeons are unforgivable. Such a lazy, worthless piece of shit game. Honestly, I don't really have any best games of 2012, so sue me? Black Ops 2 maybe? Spec Ops The Line?
Hey Joe, you wanna play a zombie game?
No! I don't want to fucking play a zombie game. I'm tired of fucking zombies.
The granddaddy king of terrible early access titles. When you mix dysfunctional gameplay with egregious pay-to-win microtransactions, season it with that typical shittiness that defines early access titles, this is the potion you get. It's called liquid diarrhea. Though, what should anyone expect from the man who developed big rigs over-the-road racing? I'm not sure how Blizzard managed to make a game
Sorry guys,
fight
Njan
Satan and his forces of hell so goddamn easy. At launch, it was a dice roll to even see if you could progress past Error 37. If you succeeded, you soon found a game where the most imposing of demons could only tickle you. The most bland gameplay ever. Click everything till it dies, and you will never be in trouble. Diablo 3 put such an awful taste in my mouth, I've never bothered to try it since. Maybe it's changed. 343's first attempt at making a Halo after Bungie's departure went about as disastrously as you could imagine. While many people love the story, I don't, because the dynamic between Master Chief and Cortana is so fundamentally different from the other games. It feels forced, with no real transition or explanation. Spartan Ops was a bust, and the multiplayer did its absolute best to copy Call of Duty in every way possible, completely losing its identity. It's no surprise this game died so quickly after launch, because it didn't feel like Halo. When I think of sequels that disgrace a franchise, none comes to mind faster than Sticker Star. Super Paper Mario stripped the strategic combat from Thousand Year Door, which is one of the greatest games of all time, but Sticker Star ripped out the soul. What's left is an empty, hollow, brain-dead, do-nothing game that makes me long for another real Paper Mario. I can't believe Nintendo put this out.
Let's make some bees and honey. Meet back at Ritz for a pint.
A match a day keeps the doctor
Grand
away.
Theft Auto 5.
Just kidding.
I mean,
I'm made of
what
metal.
else is there to say?
You are a pirate.
I fucking love pirates, and this is the best pirate game I've ever played. From the sailing to the sea shanties, ship-to-ship combat, tropical exploration, beautiful graphics. I'm not an Assassin's Creed fan, but I love this game. Now here's a platformer brimming with character. Rayman Legends is characteristic of that old-school, innocent style of game. So simplistic, and it just makes you feel happy playing it. Some of the levels are pure insanity, and there were countless nooks and crannies to explore. I spent so much time trying to 100% this game, and I savored every minute of it. Fantastic, energetic music, and this gameplay so engaging. It's a must-play for any platformer fan, and may well be one of the best platformers of all time.
That's the last.
Cover for you, mates.
Motion capture made the characters involved feel so alive and fresh. I can't stop thinking about how good this game is with everyone and why I should review it. Maybe someday. I personally like the more mod, but I cannot deny the impact on gaming culture that 2 has had. Winning millions of dollars in prize money for being the best team at a video game is kind of ridiculous to think about. And following League of Legends really popularized the hero MOBA style of game. Dota 2 broke the threshold and gave some of those esports players similar paychecks to pro athletes. incredible soundtrack. Aside from that, the character system meant the more you battled the more dialogue and special bonuses you'd unlock. The sheer amount of options for characters getting married is staggering. I can't imagine how much dialogue they have to write for this. But it's all high quality. It really connects you with each character. It's definitely one of the longest games I've played. He called. There's a reason most fans refer to Dog Models the game as franchise. Maps were too big, gameplay was boring, and the story made no sense. It was a snore fest from start to finish and didn't give people any incentive to buy the next-gen consoles. Check out my review of it.
Come on.
This game is so fucked up in every way imaginable. Not even mainstream journalists could give it a 7 out of 10. Ride to Hell's awfulness is beyond legendary. I'm scarred for life from these sections. No way. Hilarious to play through.
Every day, നമ്മുടെ team split ആയി കിടക്കുക പ്രാന്ത്.
SimCity showed how awful the always-online philosophy can be. In 2013, a functional game wasn't as important as having players connect to EA's shitty servers.
Okay.
Nobody may have bought the Wii U, but it still had some damn good games on it. One of those was Tropical Freeze, which gave off some serious DK Country flags. It has many of the same qualities as Rayman Legends. Backdrops and locations, hidden secrets. It's a platformer you really need to play. Cute homage to the old school platforming games of years gone by. Some of them are surprisingly good. Started to turn their heads towards indie releases and making more series. It's almost become its own AAA franchise nowadays. Not Double Dash, but it might even be better. The new mechanics and perspective switching was really trippy. This game had so many great stages, items, a fully functioning online multiplayer. That's rare for Nintendo. And even post-launch support. Not to mention kart customization. The definitive kart racing game. Lord of the Rings hack and slash adventure? Sign me right up. Exploring the open world of Middle-earth was incredible. Plenty of collectibles as well. Shadow of Mordor had a pretty great story, characters, and bosses to fight. I loved the nemesis killed them or got killed. It was truly dynamic and unlike anything I'd ever seen before.
Not so much. Show me your moves.
Smash Bros is always great, even on the Wii U. They made a lot of advancements for the series and introduced several new characters, almost setting the foundation for Ultimate.
No way. I'm getting hacked.
I have since been docked my personal information revealed. It had a very enrapturing E3 demo, but the
Didn't your madre ever tell you? Never try to be.
ഞാൻ കൊന്നില്ലേ മറ്റവനെ?
Despite its condition now, I will always remember the Master Chief Collection as the game that pissed me off so much and inspired me to make a YouTube channel. Trying to find matches in the early days was the longest abusive relationship I've been in. Around 90% of the time was spent in the menu, so much so that the main menu music ran up to the get into a match that had some game breaking. 4% of the time the game would freeze, kick you out of the lobby, or put you in an uneven match. And roughly 1% of the time, if not less, was the game actually working.
That wizard came from the moon.
You ever wondered how fast one of the most reputable developers in games voice actors gave so few fucks they had to replace them later. Activision made massive cuts to Joe Statton's story. They shredded the game. Everything is a total disaster, controversy after controversy. And the story is quite possibly the worst in video game history. But that didn't stop people from buying or playing it. In on-rails arcade shooter in 2014? Let's sell it for $40. Look at those graphics. Oh my god.
I'm a witcher, not a gigolo.
It's actually a gaming sin to say anything bad about Witcher 3 or CD Projekt Red. You will be assassinated if you do. The most circle jerk game, but for good reason. Top tier. Even just thinking about it makes me want to sink the next 12 hours of my life into it. Exceptional length, great DLCs, massive exploration, side quests feel better and more fleshed out than most games' full-length stories. Combat is tight, if a bit simplistic, a game based off a series of excellent novels that then turned into its own TV show. Witcher 3 has made waves for good reason. While I personally prefer the Souls games to Bloodborne, this gothic, Lovecraftian nightmare was a real trip. A fantastic yet disgusting universe with an interesting premise. Swapping between weapon forms was unique. The new parry system was hard to get accustomed to. Phase boss fights always put you on your toes. I dig the emphasis on the defensive option. The aggressiveness of the enemies made the fight so intense. Although the clothing customization sucks.
Finally.
Beautiful, emotional platform. Ori is so cute and adorable. This was a graphical milestone in gaming for me personally, showing me just how beautiful the platform was. And the gameplay was fast and fluid.
Nah, you did good.
It's just so pretty. I am but a Call of Duty scrub, and Rainbow Six Siege is too tactical for me. On the real, it's impressive how long this shooter has stayed relevant with updates, new operators, weapons, etc. It's carved out its own hardcore fan base. While I feel the kill time is way too short, and it being an entirely one-life game does turn me off, I cannot deny its impact on gaming and the people that love it. Basically just a series of community-made Mario levels. Endless 2D platforming with the visual styles and design of all the classic Mario games. It's surprising that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 is considered one of the greatest games of all time. But it's even more surprising what an absolute Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 literally made to milk a franchise to death with no bounds. It was a broken mess.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am.
An insult to the Battlefront franchise and an utter disappointment. EA's foray into Battlefront territory contained next to nothing of what we loved about the game. No space battles, no single player, galactic conquest, regular conquest, vehicles spawn as tokens, no co-op vehicles. Mechanically, it was brain dead, but it did have a stunning representation of the Star Wars universe and impressive sound design. But he ripped and teared his way stop. Such a fast-paced shooter with all the fundamentals that made the original so revolutionary and fun. Mick Gordon became a household name for gamers overnight with his unique heavy metal soundtrack. Doom 2016 oozed and bled style around every corner and corpse of the game. Where most shooters nowadays have a weak or non-existent single player, Doom flipped that paradigm around and showed the world how kick-ass FPS campaigns can be. Speaking of,
it's high noon.
Overwatch didn't have a single player and was fairly bare bones at release, but man, Blizzard did a hell of a job transferring the MOBA style to FPS. Overwatch is stylistically perfect, and that's why people make so much noise for it. All the great new characters, and overall charm, Overwatch is have some fun even 10 years later. Here's a curveball for you. Yes, I'm a huge nerd and warrior of the video game. Trials and Tribulations is one of the best written games of all time, and Spirit of Justice is just as good. That should say it all. This game is everything I wanted as a fan of Ace Attorney. Journeying to Kurain and seeing all the culture there, getting to play as Phoenix Wright again and meet some of my favorite characters, it was amazing fan service, and I treasured each and every moment of it. Freaking legend. The fans of this series have been waiting for that for a long time. Spirit of Justice has so many twists and turns, and honestly, has become one of my favorite games ever. All together to create the most refined Souls-type game ever. Fluid combat, challenging enemies, imposing bosses, an incredible PvP community, excellent level design, it's a bit linear. The PvP was awesome and way more balanced than previous games. So much customization, options, planning, min-maxing, DLC and story wrapped up this universe in a perfect little bow. Raise the sun, it was so good. I was straight up addicted to the lengthy battle against the operation. The pushing and pulling tug of war, leveling up and unlocking new weapons was great. The old-timiness of it was nailed so well. And you know, it had some pretty decent war stories too. Definitely spent way too much time with it. Check out my list. Shows that other developers should embrace the campaign and not shy away from it. Such an emotional story that carries weight. And shit, man, I hope they make a third one. The Titans are all super fun and badass. The weapons are cool and unique. The movement is absolutely awesome. No wonder so many games will respawn after this title.
This universe that we've created, it's so vast, it's so boundless, it's actually infinite, and we don't even know what's out there.
No man's game, no man's content, no man's promises. I could make too many of these jokes, so I'll stop while I'm ahead. It did make a pretty successful turnaround from what I hear, but man oh man, so many promises fall short. Guess that's what happens when a publisher tries to pass a new game off of AAA release. I can't speak for the campaign, but the multiplayer, dear God, was pure garbage. Watch Favian's video, he explains it all. Invisible barrier warfare is more like it.
You dare bring light to my lair? You must die!
Arguably the biggest revolution to the Legend of Zelda franchise since those wonderful CDI cutscenes.
Oh boy! I'm so hungry, I could eat an Octorok!
Breath of the Wild turned Zelda into an open-world game, but the world wasn't empty and lifeless. It was brimming with character and secrets that define this franchise. One of the coolest parts of the game is being able to head straight to Ganondorf after the tutorial stuff. Breath of the Wild created shockwaves when it came out.
നല്ല ടയേർഡ്. എനിവേസ് സ്ട്രീം അത്ര കുറച്ച് നേരം നിൽക്കുന്നു തോന്നുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇന്നത്തേക്ക് നിർത്തുകയാണ്. പതിവ് വേറെ പ്രത്യേകിച്ചൊന്നും പറയാനില്ല. ഇന്ന് was a fun day. I'm not going to deny that. Had a lot of fun. And in some regards, this was something that I needed for a long time. But anyways, ഞാൻ ഇന്നത്തേക്ക് നിർത്തുകയാണ്. And I guess പതിവ് പോലെ goodbye. GG's and to be continued. Bye bye.